Hello, I'm Robin Gibson, and this is the Harvard House Money Morsel. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us again. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell so you get a notification of when we're releasing a new video. I'm sitting today with Michael Porter again. Hello, Michael.
Good morning, Robin.
So, Michael, we see that Trump dominates the headlines. It's still a lot of anxiety around tariffs around the world, but Trump's not in the hot seat as yet, is he? And what he says and what he does might be quite different.
Morning, Robin. I think probably the starting point is to say that Trump is going to be in the headlines for the next 4 years. We should probably get used to it. I think that's probably a given. Robin, I'm not 100% sure of the exact inauguration date. I have a feeling it's around about the 20th of January, somewhere around there. But sorry, it's towards the end of January. But you're quite right. I mean, Trump's been laying out a stall. Let's sort of put it like that. You know, he's been choosing his cabinet, what we would call a cabinet, his ministers and things like that. And there's a lot of inference from those choices about where his policies might be or where his policies might not be, because obviously you kind of know where maybe someone stands for, you know, where someone stands on an issue or something like that. So there's been quite a lot of toing and froing. There's been quite a lot of press speculation and, we like this guy. No, we don't like this guy. And share prices are reacting accordingly. On the whole trade thing, I think it's interesting because there was obviously talk earlier this week about putting tariffs on Mexico and Canada. Now, obviously, there is the sort of US, Canada, Mexico sort of trade agreement. There was NAFTA, which is the North American Free Trade Agreement. And, Trump sort of opening salvo is, okay, well, tariffs on Canada and Mexico. But actually, I think my interpretation of all this is actually that there's Trump does want trade, and he doesn't want to sort of kill the golden goose, but I think he's using tariffs as a foreign policy weapon to cajole other behaviors. So definitely, in terms of immigration, border control, all those kind of things, it's like, well, if you don't want tariffs, then you step up to look after your border and stop migrants coming through and things like that. So I think there's quite a lot of jostling, setting out their stall, saber rattling, if you want to call it like that at the moment. I don't think everything's going to come to pass, but I do think that tariffs is quite an easy way to start getting concessions out of people and other things that he wants. And then you might find that tariffs are not as bad, but then he's getting other concessions. So that's kind of how I'm reading it. I could be completely wrong, because I think the one thing that we probably do have to acknowledge is that Trump's unpredictable. And I think we probably have to write in big letters on the back here, the law of unintended consequences is probably something we're going to talk about for the next couple of years, you know. So anyway, that's how it's looking to me at the moment.
Yes, yeah. And that's importing a lot of volatility into the marketplace, isn't it? I mean, a really good example is, RFK has now been appointed into the sort of health sector, and all the pharmaceutical companies had a bad day when that was announced, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, ultimately, Robin, these things settle down. And, I mean, he's obviously quite hot on sort of nutrition, and he, I think, wants to look at sort of food standards and, amount of sugar in foods and things, which is 100%. There's no issue with that. That might save a future generation from health related, but current generations are still needing the drugs and things like that, So I think that some of these things are quite noble, and I do think that sometimes big companies have a lot to answer for. Let's face it, they don't always put their best foot forward, but I think some of these issues are multi-generational issues that are going to take quite a long time. You don't just come and wave a wand and say, well, I've solved this problem. Yes, I mean, it's going to go through reams of regulation and backwards and forwardsing. So, but I don't think that that journey would be a bad one, but it's not going to impact on how many weight loss drugs you sell next year. So yes, sentiment, you're quite right. Markets are jostling around. There's a lot of sentiment, but actually in the cold light of day, if they start changing track and, you can turn an oil tanker. It takes time to turn an oil 100%. Tanker, and it's exactly the same with the US. But I'm not saying that a bit of a change in direction wouldn't be a bad thing.
So, Michael, talking about big companies, let's just come a little bit closer. We did talk last week about the Boxer IPO, as they call it in America, but its first listing. So that's spun out of Pick and Pay. Had a stonking first day, didn't it?
Yeah, so excuse the pun, Robin. It came out fighting.
Okay, Michael.
Okay, so Boxer was heavily oversubscribed. Yes. As we speculated last week, it's probably one of the most exciting sort of standalone businesses. It has been part of Pick and Pay, but Pick and Pay's had broader problems. We've never had shares in we haven't had shares in Pick and Pay for 5 years because of the broader problems in the Pick and Pay group. Mm-hmm. But Boxer was a real gem within that, and it's at that low end of the market, which is really buoyant. Yeah. So yes, it was an exciting listing. It was heavily oversubscribed because it's an attractive business. And so generally it was 5 to 6 times oversubscribed. Generally investors got a fifth of what they asked for. And when it's that oversubscribed, you know that people haven't got the shares that they wanted. So when it lists on day one, pop goes the weasel and the share price. So the range of the listing was 42 to 54 Rand. It listed at 54 Rand. So that right at the top end of the range, which is great for Pick and Pay. They got maximum value out of their stake, I suppose. But it started trading yesterday, Thursday, and the opening price was 62 Rand, and it kind of never looked back. So 54 to 62 in one day, that's a pretty decent return for people who got some shares in the IPO. And then it traded heavily yesterday. So listen, I think things will settle down a little bit. But it just goes to show, Robin, that actually there's a lot of appetite for quality businesses in South Africa, and we've been a bit starved. The next big business we're really waiting for is Coca-Cola beverages. So remember when AB InBev bought SAB, all the bottling interests were kind of amalgamated in South Africa, and Coca-Cola in the US sort of owns that, but they don't like to own their bottlers. And that listing was part of the actual conditions of that merger.
Yes.
It was meant to be probably listed 2 years ago. Conditions just haven't been right. But if we see a little bit of a better mood in the country, but better valuations, I'm sure that sometime next year we're going to get that listing, and that'll be a huge boost to the local market, and also a very attractive consumer-facing business. Yeah. So the Boxer IPO gives you an indication. Well, it should actually give them a bit of excitement or encouragement that actually the market's really has got appetite for good quality businesses. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure they're watching it closely, Michael.
Sure they are.
As will we in due course. Michael, thank you so much for giving us insight. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.